The birth of opera. Introduction to opera. Opera is like a play set to music. It combines singing, acting, costumes, and sometimes even dance to tell a story. When you watch an opera, you see performers acting out a story on stage, but instead of speaking, they sing. The music in opera is very important. It is played by an orchestra, and the singers' voices are trained to be strong and clear so everyone can hear them. The stories told in operas can be about anything: love, adventure, mystery, or even history. Opera started in Italy over 400 years ago, and it was a way for stories to be more exciting and emotional. Imagine going to the theater and not just seeing actors perform, but hearing beautiful music that helps tell the story. That's what opera is like. People from all over the world enjoy opera. It has a special way of sharing emotions through music. The stories and the music can make you feel happy, sad, excited, or even scared. In this story, we will learn more about the history of opera, what happens during an opera, and why it is still loved by so many people today. Let's open the curtain and discover the magical world of opera together. History of opera. Opera began in Italy at the end of the 16th century. It was a time of great creativity in art and music. People wanted to bring the stories of Greek plays to life, but they wanted to add music. This is how opera started. The first operas were like musical stories and were often performed at royal courts for kings and queens. These early operas were a mix of spoken drama, singing, and dancing with simple instruments. Over time, the music became the most important part, and operas started to be performed for more people, not just the royal families. In the 17th and 18th centuries, opera became very popular in Europe, especially in countries like Italy, France, and Germany. Each country added its own style to opera. In Italy, operas were full of beautiful songs called arias and exciting stories. In France, dance and elegant costumes were very important. In Germany, the stories were often about myths and legends. One of the most famous opera composers was an Italian named Claudio Monteverdi. He wrote one of the earliest operas that people still perform today, called L'Orfeo, in 1607. After him, other composers like Handel, Mozart, and Verdi created operas that told dramatic and emotional stories through music. In the 19th century, opera became bigger and more impressive. Composers like Wagner in Germany wrote very long operas with big orchestras and complex stories. The stages had elaborate sets, and the costumes were very detailed. Opera was like a big show, and people loved it. At the same time, opera also became a place to talk about politics and society. Some operas had hidden messages about freedom and justice, which was a way for people to think about the world. Today, operas from the past are still performed, and new ones are being written. Opera has a long history, but it is always changing and growing. It is a part of the world's music and tells stories that can touch everyone's heart. In the next section, we'll explore the different parts of an opera. From the singers on stage to the musicians in the orchestra pit, we'll learn how they all work together to create the beautiful and powerful performances that make opera so special. Elements of opera. Opera is an art form that combines many different parts to create a beautiful story on stage. Let's look at the main elements that make up an opera. Music. The orchestra plays music that sets the mood for the story. The music in opera is very important because it can make you feel the emotions of the characters, like happiness, love, or sadness. Libretto. The libretto is the words or the script of the opera. It tells the story and is written to be sung. The person who writes the libretto is called a librettist. Arias. An aria is a song for one singer. When a character sings an aria, they express their feelings. Arias are often the most famous parts of operas because they can be very emotional and beautiful. Ensembles. Sometimes, More than one person sings at the same time. This could be a duet, 2 singers, a trio, 3 singers, or even a larger group. These moments are called ensembles, and they show the relationships between the characters. Chorus. The chorus is a group of singers who act as the background characters. They can be townspeople, soldiers, or other groups in the story. They help to build up the big scenes with their voices all singing together. Acting. The singers in an opera also act. They wear costumes and move around the stage to become the characters in the story. Sets and costumes. The set is the background on the stage that looks like the place where the story is happening. The costumes are the clothes the singers wear. Both sets and costumes help make the opera more real and exciting to watch. Stage direction. A stage director decides how the singers should move and act on stage. They help to tell the story in a way that looks good to the audience. When you put all these elements together, you get an opera. It is like watching a play and a concert at the same time. Each part of the opera works together to tell the story and make the audience feel a part of the world on stage. In the next section, we will talk about the different types of voices you can hear in opera. Each voice type has a special range and sound, and certain characters usually have certain types of voices. Understanding this will help you appreciate opera even more. Opera voices and roles. In opera, the singers' voices are very special. Each voice has a different range, and there are several types of opera voices. Here are the main ones. Soprano. This is the highest female voice. The soprano often plays the heroine in the opera, which is the main female character. She usually sings about love or happiness and sometimes sadness. Mezzo-soprano. This voice is a little lower than the soprano. A mezzo-soprano often plays mothers, older women, or sometimes even boys. She has strong emotions and sings about deep feelings. Tenor. The tenor has the highest male voice in opera. He often plays the hero, which is the main male character. He sings about love, bravery, and sometimes sadness or anger. Baritone. This male voice is lower than the tenor. The baritone often plays the best friend, the leader, or sometimes the villain, who is the bad character in the story. He has a strong voice that can express many different feelings. Bass. The bass has the lowest male voice. He often plays powerful characters like kings or fathers. He can also play funny characters that make the audience laugh. Each voice type has different roles that match the character's personality in the story. For example, a soprano might sing a beautiful aria about love, while a bass might sing a strong song about making a big decision. The singer's job is to use their voice to tell the character's story and show their feelings. They work very hard to sing clearly and with emotion so that the audience can understand the story, even if it is in a different language. Opera singers also have to act while they sing. They wear costumes and use their bodies and faces to show what their characters are feeling. This makes the story more exciting and helps the audience to feel the emotions of the opera. In opera, there are also special roles called pants roles or trouser roles. These are male characters played by women, usually mezzo-sopranos. They dress like men and act like men, which is a tradition from long ago when women were not allowed to act on stage. Understanding the different voices in opera can help you enjoy the music and the story more. Each type of voice adds something special to the opera, and together they make a beautiful and powerful show. In the next section, we will look at some famous operas and their composers. We'll learn about the stories these operas tell and the music that makes them unforgettable. Join us as we continue to explore the wonderful world of opera. Famous operas and composers. Opera has many famous works that have been loved for years. Here are some well-known operas and the composers who created them. The Magic Flute by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. This opera is like a fairy tale with magic, adventure, and love. It tells the story of a prince who goes on a journey to rescue a princess. Mozart's music in The Magic Flute is beautiful and fun, with famous arias that are often sung in concerts. La Bohème by Giacomo Puccini. This opera is about the lives and loves of young artists in Paris. It's a story of romance and sadness. Puccini's music is very emotional and has made La Bohème one of the most beloved operas in the world. Carmen by Georges Bizet. Carmen is set in Spain and tells the story of a brave and beautiful woman named Carmen. The music is famous for its fiery Spanish rhythms and passionate melodies. Carmen is an exciting opera that many people enjoy. Aida by Giuseppe Verdi. This opera is an epic story set in Egypt. It's about a princess named Ada who falls in love with a soldier. Verdi's music in Aida is grand and dramatic, and the opera is known for its spectacular scenes. The Barber of Seville by Gioacchino Rossini. This is a funny opera, full of laughter and lively music. It tells the story of a clever barber who helps a count win the heart of a beautiful woman. Rossini's music in The Barber of Seville is playful and energetic. These operas are just a few examples of the many wonderful works in the world of opera. Each one has its own unique story and music. The composers of these operas were very talented. They knew how to write music that could tell a story and touch people's hearts. When you listen to their operas, you can hear the emotions in the music, whether it's happy, sad, romantic, or exciting. Opera is a way to travel to different places and times. You can visit ancient Egypt in Aida, go to a magical world in The Magic Flute, or experience life in Paris with La Bohème. The stories in opera are timeless, which means they are still interesting and relevant today. In the next section, we will explore the opera houses where these operas are performed and what it's like to see an opera live. From the beautiful buildings to the experience of watching a performance, there's so much to discover about going to the opera. Opera houses and performance. Opera houses are special places where operas are performed. They are often beautiful buildings with grand stages and elegant seating. Let's learn about these amazing places and what it's like to see an opera live. Opera houses have a big stage where the singers and actors perform. The stage has sets that look like the places in the story, like a castle, a forest, or a street. These sets help bring the opera to life and make you feel like you are part of the story. The seating area in an opera house is called the auditorium. It's usually designed so that everyone can see the stage and hear the music well. In the center of the auditorium, there's a special area called the orchestra pit. This is where the musicians sit and play the music for the opera. When you go to see an opera, you might notice that people often dress up. It's a tradition to wear nice clothes to the opera, like dresses or suits. This makes going to the opera a special event. Before the opera starts, the lights in the auditorium go down, and the orchestra begins to play. Then the curtain rises, and the opera begins. You'll hear the beautiful singing and see the story unfold on stage. Opera singers have strong voices, so they can be heard over the orchestra and throughout the auditorium. Watching an opera can be a magical experience. The music, the voices, the costumes, and the sets all come together to create a wonderful show. It's like stepping into another world for a few hours. Some of the most famous opera houses in the world are the Metropolitan Opera in New York, La Scala in Milan, Italy, and the Royal Opera House in London. These opera houses are known for their beautiful architecture and for hosting some of the best opera performances. Going to the opera is also about the atmosphere. There's a feeling of excitement and anticipation in the air. People talk about the opera they are about to see and what they are looking forward to. In the next section, we will discuss the cultural significance of opera. We'll learn how opera is not just entertainment, but also a way to understand different cultures and historical periods. Opera is a rich art form that has a lot to teach us about the world and ourselves. Cultural significance of opera. Opera is more than just entertainment. It holds a special place in culture and history. Throughout the years, opera has been a way to express emotions, tell stories, and even comment on society. It reflects the times and places in which it was written, giving us insight into different cultures and historical periods. Many operas tell stories about important events in history or famous legends and myths. By watching these operas, we can learn about the past and the values of different societies. For example, some operas deal with themes of love, power, and justice, which are important ideas in every culture. Opera also plays a role in preserving and celebrating language and music. Each country's operas use the local language and musical styles, which helps keep these traditions alive. In Italy, for instance, operas are performed in Italian and often include traditional Italian melodies. In modern times, opera continues to evolve. Today, there are operas about current events and issues, making the art form relevant to our lives now. New operas are being written, and traditional operas are being reimagined in creative ways. Opera connects us to the rich tapestry of human experience. It combines music, drama, art, and history, making it a powerful and meaningful form of art. In our next section, we will look at modern opera and the innovations in this art form. We'll see how contemporary composers are bringing new ideas to opera, and how this timeless art continues to captivate and inspire audiences today. Modern opera and innovations. Opera is not stuck in the past. It is always growing and changing. Modern opera brings new stories, music, and ways of performing to audiences around the world. Let's explore these innovations. Today's composers are writing new operas that reflect our modern world. They tell stories about current events, real people, and everyday life. This makes opera more relatable to today's audiences. The music in these operas can include not just classical instruments, but also modern ones like electric guitars or even electronic music. Technology is also changing opera. Video projections and digital effects are being used to create amazing scenes on stage. This technology can take the audience to different places and times, making the experience even more exciting. Some modern operas are also experimenting with different ways of performing. Instead of being in big opera houses, these operas might be performed in smaller, more intimate spaces. This can make opera feel more personal and close. Even with these changes, the heart of opera remains the same. It's still about powerful music, emotional stories, and beautiful singing. These new ideas are just adding to the rich tradition of opera. Opera continues to be a vibrant and important part of the arts. It shows us that no matter how much the world changes, the joy of music and storytelling is timeless. In our final section, we will conclude our journey through the world of opera. We'll reflect on what makes this art form so special and why it continues to capture the hearts of people everywhere. Conclusion. As we have seen, opera is a beautiful and powerful art form that combines music, story, acting, and visuals. It has a rich history that goes back hundreds of years and continues to evolve today. Opera tells stories that can make us feel a wide range of emotions, from happiness to sadness and everything in between. It reflects the culture of the times in which it was created, and it continues to be relevant today by telling new stories in innovative ways. Opera is truly a unique experience, combining so many art forms into one stunning performance. It remains a cherished part of the arts, captivating audiences around the world with its timeless beauty and powerful storytelling.